The cold has finally arrived, horror buffs, but here at Honest Pop Culture Reviews, I have a great way to keep you warm through the cold winter months, with a few chilly horror movie recommendations. Some elements can be scarier than others, and the countless number of winter-themed plots show that there is a clear winner among them. Let's bear the chilly winds together and examine what the top 5 winter horror movies are in this week's list. Welcome back to Honest Pop Culture Reviews, and I'm your host, Jacki K. Winter horror not only delivers a chilly atmosphere, but also provides an uncertain fate for any character in the film. To face a slow and painful death in below freezing temperatures is terrifying, but many of our protagonists must endure another threat lurking in the shadows. The movies on this week's list have been selected based on their ability to scare or thrill, their plot revolves around an unbearing chilly atmosphere, and their overall execution. Number 5, Frozen. No, not Disney's Frozen. This is a little hidden gem from 2010 that probably missed your radar. It's not great, but it isn't terrible either. You have a heterosexual couple and the man's best friend gets stuck on a ski lift a la MacGuffin, as the resort is only open on the weekends and it's Sunday nights. The 3 characters are faced with unrelenting weather and the terrifying knowledge of what awaits them if they decide to just sit there and wait for 5 days. For a horror film that literally takes place in one location, a ski lift chair, for about 80% of its runtime, it actually does a great job at building tension and delivering the age-old question, what would you do in that situation? There's clever dialogue and foreshadowing at the beginning of the film, and although there isn't much bloodshed, this movie will deliver the impending fear of freezing to death to its viewers. Number 4, Misery. Stephen King's first entry on this list, as he clearly has a thing for cold atmospheres, Misery's horror story stems from an author driving on a Colorado mountain, crashing, and being rescued by his number 1 fan. The icy setting drives the plot of the film, while also providing Annie Wilkes the perfect remedy as to why they can't call for help or drive to a nearby town. But luckily for Paul Sheldon, author and King stand-in, his rescuer is a former nurse. Although the weather isn't the scariest thing about this film, the acting, storyline, and psychological horror wins it a spot on today's list. The weather is the driving force in the eventual captive thriller, and it is also the reason Paul cannot venture out on his own to try and escape the psychotic and obsessive Annie. If you're looking for a chilly, secluded thriller with Kathy Bates and James Caan, and probably their best film, check out Misery this cold winter season. Number 3, 30 Days of Night. Alright, now here is a full-fledged horror film, which I'm sure you're all waiting on hand and foot to finally hear. 30 Days of Night is based on a graphic novel and was released about 10 years ago, during the Josh Hartnett being a heartthrob stage of the late aughts. The setting of the film takes place in a small Alaskan community, which is so far away from the sun it has literally 30 days of night, which is a perfect place for a vampire to stay and set up camp at. If they were smart about it, they would at least not drain any of their human buffets, but these aren't smart vampires. And this town is eventually covered in red snow, as a colony of vampires soon reveal themselves. It's up to the town sheriff, Josh Hartnett, to try and save the few remaining townspeople from certain death. A snowy-capped town that hardly has the sun come out, a perfectly terrifying film for people with seasonal depression. Number 2, The Shining. Hello, Steven. It's me, your girl. I have a question for you. Aside from your infatuation with writers, Maine, and the supernatural, do you also suffer from seasonal depression? What do you have against Colorado? The Shining's driving plot point is again being snowed in with no way to call out to a larger community for help. And being left alone with your thoughts, it can drive a man mad. Another psychological thriller horror film to sink your freezing paws into, The Shining would, of course, make it onto this list about the fear of freezing to death. Although one question I've always had about the film is if it takes place in Colorado, at a resort hotel during the winter months, and Colorado is known for being a winter sports state, why do they need a winter caretaker? Right? Like, I know it calls for the story so they can be snowed in and whatnot, but like, wouldn't the winter be the time the hotel is open? I don't know, maybe things were different in the 70s unless I'm misremembering something about the movie or novel, which I haven't read. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments on that bad boy. Honorable mention, The Thaw. Dang. The Thaw is a really great movie, and I wish I could praise it more on this list because it actually provides some squirmish scares. Sadly, it does not have that many winter elements to it. When a research expedition to the Arctic discovers that a melting polar ice cap has released a deadly, prehistoric parasite, it's a race against time to fix what humanity's been doing for the past 2,000 years. It's actually a great film about global warming, and now I'm realizing I have a major blind spot because I should have included A Day After Tomorrow on this list, but instead, number one is quite obviously The Thing. Number one. Another film about a few scientists researching an icy frontier. We have a group entirely comprised of men facing an alien that assimilates into their coworkers. It's interesting because the 2011 prequel that examines what happens to the Norwegian research facility, just a stone's throw away, is led by a woman amongst men. And honestly, I think she does a better job at keeping cool and addressing the situation than the group of men with her and in the 1982 original. Interesting how a woman in power can do that. Anyways, the team at first doesn't know what they're up against, and then they have to find a way to work together while simultaneously hurling accusations at one another. The fear of isolation, aliens, and being assimilated at any moment drive the horror of this classic John Carpenter film. While the setting is against an icy backdrop, being thousands of miles away from civilization. The Thing, I'm sure, will grace many more lists in the future, but today is its first mention and amazingly in the number one spot, as it so deserves. If you have yet to watch The Thing, or perhaps want to revisit the classic, take some time to watch it tonight while under a warm blanket, cuddled up to your dog that is totally not assimilated alien using your body for warmth. Well, that's our list. How mad are you that I didn't give The Day After Tomorrow its own slot? Because I myself am incredibly mad at whoever scripted this nonsense. I'm also mad at all of the blogs I read in preparation of building this list because not a single one of them mentioned the amazing 2004 film. And they led to me failing you until after the fact. Maybe we'll do an end of the world list soon. Tune in next week when we take a look at the top Valentine horror films to get you ready for the Hallmark holiday. Please take a minute to like, share, subscribe, and comment on today's video. It really helps me out and keeps me motivated to create content for you. And if you want to see some different types of content, please let me know below. You've been watching Honest Pop Culture Reviews. I'm your host, Jacki K, keeping pop culture honest. There is clever dialogue and foreshadowing and ready for the Hallmark holiday. Some elements can be scarier than others. You have a heterosexual couple and the man's best friend gets stuck on a ski lift a la MacGuffin at the resort is only as they what the f***? What did I write? It made sense the other day.